Hello, welcome to our budgeting video. My name is Lacey. We just did our application video, so if you have not done that, please go back and do that first, and then come and work on your budget. We're going to do three things today. We're going to talk about how to kind of brainstorm and price out supplies for your budget, which may take you a couple of days before you actually come back to finalize your budget. I again want to make sure that you have that email address in case you have questions or you want to request a mentor from the committee. And then I'll actually walk you through the budget. So I'll screen share with you so you can see what both of these things look like, and you can, if you want, go to, and I would suggest, go to myadelante.org to download it, or have someone, a mentor or supervisor, print it for you or send it to you so that you can download if you do not have access to myadelante.org. But it is right on the homepage on the right-hand side, as is this document, which is budgeting like guidelines. So we'll just run through this quickly. And then you may take a little break before you do the budget if you need time to actually price out your supplies and get quotes and such, but we'll talk about that. So again, this is the budget for the Mike Kivitz Legacy Innovation Fund grants. We just did the application piece of this in the first video. This is the budgeting piece. So the first thing that we want to do is have you take out a piece of paper so that we can brainstorm all of the things that you're going to need for this project. So don't forget things like travel costs, right? Are you going to need to pay for bus tickets, Sunvan tickets, gas for a car? How many miles is it going to take you to get from one point to another if you are buying gas? You can just Google that online, like from where you live to the store that you're going to, what the total mileage is, so that you can then figure out what your travel cost is going to be based on gas costs. Bus tickets, like I said, work there too, especially if you're going to know that you need to transfer, or maybe even on multiple days, like do different things for this. Just make sure that you let us know what the trips are going to look like, where it's going to go, and how much that's going to cost you. And then the supplies, you're going to make a list of all the supplies that you need. Make sure that you pay attention to the details and take accurate measurements of anything that you're, filling a space of, or like we're going to talk about the gardening project for an example, since we did that for the application. So, if you know that it's a certain plot of land that you might need to buy soil for, like we need to know that so you know how much soil you need to buy and how many bags and all of those very specific details. Also round up your numbers in the budget so that you can, it's just easier for us to look at it that way, but also you can cover any, tax or anything that might be on that. So we want you to as well request up to 3 quotes or price out 3 different places. So if it's something like machinery or vendor work or like larger equipment, you might actually need to get quotes. If it's something like supplies, we want you to at least look in 3 different places, maybe, Home Depot, Lowe's, a local gardening shop. Like what is the cost in each of those places for things like soil or the plants that you're thinking of using. Maybe you actually need supplies like gloves or shovels. So actually just list out right now everything that you can think of that you're going to need for this. And you can also, like, as you're doing this over the next couple of days, because it may take you a little bit of time to price out these things and or get quotes, maybe you'll think of something else that you want to add to the budget. So always feel free to kind of sit on it for a day or so. And then some places may also be willing to support you by giving a donation or giving you free items. So never hesitate to ask, especially if it is more like a local store or someplace someone you know. And then we also want to keep track of that in the budget as something that's being given to you. And this is actually really important. We're excited for you to do this part of it. It's very important if you're ever working on things like grants, or if you are buying like big equipment or machinery, if you're doing any kind of purchasing for organizations, we all have to do these things. We have to get quotes. We have to look at different prices for supplies before we actually request the funds. And so it's a really good skill to have to just be able to do that. And then the other thing to think about in our little brainstorm list of for your budget is advertising. So if you're holding some kind of class or training session or event, you may want to print posters. You may want to go to, is Kinko's still around? Kinko's, and see what that would cost you, for the size that you want, if you want it in color, how many you want. Make sure that you also take into account paper and ink costs and things like that for advertising if you're doing something like an event or you're recruiting people for some kind of project for the project that you're doing. So keep those costs in mind too. We want to add those to the budget. And then the budget is located at the end of the application. So we'll switch over and do that in just a second, but just a reminder to round off your numbers to the nearest dollar. And also double check your numbers. Check it with a calculator, check it with your phone calculator. Make sure that your total is actually what you want to be requesting from the committee for the project and that it will cover everything that you need. And then double check, decimal points, that numbers aren't left out. It can be very easy to do that in a budget. So just double check your work. And then remember too that mentors are available to help you with this if you need help. Not there to help you execute the project necessarily, but there to help you with the application and or the budget, and also check on you over the duration of the project just to see how it's going, or give you ideas, or nudge you in the right direction if you're struggling with something. So this is the email address to reach out to request a mentor or ask questions. Write this on your piece of paper too, please. innovationgrants@goadelante.org. Okay, so it may take you a couple days to do this, which is totally fine, to get quotes, to get pricing on things, to actually figure out what the things are going to cost you, how many things you need of, supplies or equipment. That's fine. Take the time to do that. We want this to be really thorough. And then you can pause this video and you can come back and watch the second part, which I'm going to actually show you how to kind of do the budget, how to walk through it. So let me stop share this and share this. Okay. So this is the application that we did the other day. This is just a blank copy, but the budget is located at the bottom of it. So I started filling this out a little bit, just with some things that I thought we could use for the gardening project. I am not a gardener, so this is all made up and these prices are all made up. Again, we want you to go get quotes and we want you to price out things so you can get the best price for your items, for your supplies. And then you can list them. You can either list them one by one if that's easier for you and there aren't that many things, and just write the total over here. So for instance, let's just pretend that a bag of soil is $25. I don't actually know, but you will know because you will figure out what that is. And then, but we actually want two, so you'll list it twice, right? The other way to do that is just to tell us that you want like a certain number of something, like the 2 spades, but put how much each one is, right? So they're each $15, which is how we got the $30 total over here. So you can write it out whichever way is easiest for you and simpler for you. I included the plants that we might want. Again, I don't know what kind of plants grow well here. I am not a gardener, but let's pretend that we were going to buy cactuses and vines and maybe a few little bags of seeds. So I put all those things in there. I also put things like gardening gloves, right? Like maybe you're actually going to need some gloves, and there are 4 people, we said yesterday when we did the application, who are helping. Then you might want gloves for everyone, right? So I said 4 sets of gardening gloves times $10 each, and that's where we got the 40 from. So I would say just be consistent in the way that you do this, right? Either break it out for us one by one, or let us know what the amount is if there's multiple of the same item. And I'm not abiding by that right now, but we're going to pretend that you are. So either do them like this with the number of objects and then what it is separately, right? $15 and just put the total over here, or you can break it out like, you know, one bag of this, one bag of that, and just list them all separately. So this should account for everything that we had on our brainstorming list that maybe you just did or you did a couple days ago, that you need to actually successfully execute your project. Whatever you explained to us above in the application and that you're actually doing for it. And then your total should be down here. Again, you can double check these numbers to make sure that they equal that. If you have any other sources of funding, let's just say that your friend donated $50 to the project, just because they're really excited about it and that you're doing this. So we want to just note that that's what it is. And it's going to take that away from your request amount. It's basically saying, okay, you have this $50 towards the 300. So what we're actually requesting for the project now is only $250. So if you have any other kinds of sources of funding for your project, just tell us what the source is over here, put the amount, and then it will subtract that to give you the total request amount. Again, if you have any questions or you get stuck on this, please reach out to us. We're happy to help you. The budget can be anywhere from $100 to $2,000. So whatever your project is, just make sure it at least hits that $100 mark, that it doesn't go over $2,000. And then we did mention when we were working on the application that if this doesn't get full funding, could you still do this, right? And so I said you may need to come back and edit this last section and maybe, you know, we see that we now need $250 and you're like, well, you know, maybe we could do it with one shovel or 2 pairs of gloves and just share them. So I just said, you know, and this may or may not be true for you or your project, but for example, we could do it with 1 shovel and only 2 pairs of gloves. In other words, like sharing them, although maybe you don't want to do that right now during COVID. Other reductions would mean less plants being planted, but we can always reduce that to fit what we are funded. So just double check that last box in the application too after you do the budget to make sure that, to see if you could do it if it wasn't funded fully for in this instance for the 250 and what that would look like. And then lastly, by submitting this application, I understand that all projects will be funded by April 1st and must be completed within 1 year. Upon completion of the funded project, I understand I must provide a brief report on the work, including how many people were helped, how many clients were involved, etc. I understand the final report must include all receipts for expenditures, and I must return any gift cards that have a remaining balance to Adelante, which I mentioned in the application process. And then also you will have a document to sign when we give you the funds for your project that just reiterates all of this, and we'll also give you a copy of it, but we just want to make sure that you know that going into it. So then you can type your name, sign your name, date it, and then also a supervisor if you are a staff member, or a client if you have a supervisor or someone like in your department that could help you with this and just sign off on it. If not, you're going to need to request a mentor to have someone look over this with you and sign off on it for you. So have them put their name, signature, date, and then you can email this to the innovation grants at Adelante, at goadelante.org, which I gave you. But let me see if I can type that somewhere else that you can have it. So that's the email address if you need to reach out to us to request a mentor or if you have any questions. Okay. All right, my dears. So that's what I have for you today. Please double check your application and budget for typos, make sure that it's clear, maybe even have someone else read over it to make sure that it makes sense or that you got everything, or maybe they'll think of something that you left out. This is also something that a mentor can help you with. So again, reach out to us at the innovationgrants@goadelante.org email address if you get stuck or have questions. We look so forward to seeing your applications, to seeing what project ideas you have, and just reach out if you need anything. And until then, have a great day.